Since the Taliban have taken over Afghanistan, India has made its stance very clear. Afghan soil should not be used for terror operations. There have been multiple conflicting reports about the Taliban's stance on Kashmir. So WION decided to ask the Taliban leaders themselves what their stand was. Our correspondent Mallick asked the Taliban what their Kashmir policy is in relation to both India and Pakistan. He also asked them what they think about the United Nations sanctions. Listen in to what the foreign minister had to say.
Mallick from WION. Sir, two-part question. Firstly, what is Taliban's Kashmir policy? Because it would decide the course of action with India and Pakistan both, number one. Number two, what happens to the UN listing? Because we're seeing that at least 17 individuals of this 33 cabinet are listed by UN. You yourself is a listed individual. How do you plan on getting off the list from the UN? Because you have UNGA coming up, who will be representing Afghanistan. Thank you.
Kashmir and everywhere else where there is tyranny, our policy is that we should stand with them. However, if there is a conflict between the two countries, like how it's said in the world to solve issues through talks, we would also emphasize solving it through talks. However, we stand with those who are oppressed.
So that is what the Taliban had to say. If there is a conflict, it should be solved using talks. And secondly, they stand for the oppressed everywhere in the world. This is a stand that was echoed by the Taliban acting Prime Minister Hassan Mullah Akund. Earlier, he had commented on the security of Muslims, saying, and I'm quoting, the new government will bring security to Afghans and Muslims around the world, and it will end all unrest, killing and humiliation in Afghanistan. Earlier, there were reports that the Taliban would interfere in Kashmir. In May 2020, their spokesperson had denied all of these claims. The Taliban said Kashmir was India's internal affair. This is what he said, I'm quoting, the statement that has been published about India is not relevant to the Islamic Emirate. The policy of the Islamic Emirate is clear that it does not interfere in the internal affairs of other countries, unquote. But cut to September 2021, a complete change in tone. The same Taliban spokesperson saying, and I'm quoting, as Muslims, we also have a right to raise our voice for Muslims in Kashmir, India or any other country, unquote. This is similar to the answer that the Taliban foreign minister gave us. They say that they stand for the oppressed everywhere and they believe that if there is a conflict, it should be resolved through talks. The other question that we posed to the Taliban was about sanctions. 17 ministers from the Taliban cabinet are sanctioned by the United Nations, including the foreign minister, Ameer Muttaqi himself. This is what he had to say about this.
They continue to be on the list even now. It's a cruel and baseless decision. We demand and hope that the issue will be resolved. If they want Afghanistan to grow and progress, then they should abolish the sanctions. During the Doha talks, US said that all will be excluded from the blacklist.
The Taliban say that the blacklist is a violation of the Doha Agreement. According to the Doha Agreement, the US had promised to initiate a review of the current sanctions, but only with the start of the intra-Afghan negotiations. The agreement does not mention any individuals. More importantly, it highlights the intra-Afghan negotiations. For more than a year, the Taliban and the Afghan government have been forced to sit in the same room. But the efforts seem to be all in vain. Months later, the government fell and the Taliban took over the entire country. So the main question here is the Doha Agreement still alive, especially with both sides violating its terms? So the question of removal of sanctions continues to hang in the balance. Joining us on the broadcast are our correspondents Mallick in Kabul and our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal tracking those developments in New Delhi. Coming to you first, Anas, if you can just summarize for our viewers the response that has been given by the Taliban, especially when it comes to its Kashmir policy. That was a question that was posed by you.
Well, yes, it's a balancing act. Won't be wrong to say that it's a balancing act done by the Taliban's interim foreign minister, Ameer Muttaqi. He was addressing a press conference a while ago. I was there. It was his first ever press conference, and I asked him about Taliban's Kashmir policy, and he said that Kashmir and everywhere else where there is tyranny or tyranny, they support those people. However, given the course of action around the world, they support talks, given that how it is done worldwide. They also said that they are quote unquote with those who are oppressed. This is what the Taliban's interim foreign minister has said. So it's a clearly classical balancing act. But on other matters, he said that they are devising a mechanism with regards to women's rights. They said their policy is clear with regards to that, and that they would be giving rights to women under the ambit of Islam. Number one. Number two, he said that the being on the blacklist is a violation of the Doha Agreement, and these issues would be resolved through talks. He also said that the Taliban welcomed this recent aid announcement in the Geneva conference, and that they will continue to work with the UN and other international bodies with regards to this aid. Then he said on the matter of recognition, he said that they're in talks. They would want the other countries, international community, to recognize them. He said that a peaceful Afghanistan means peace in the world. He also said that with regards to functional embassies, he said that at least 4 countries is where the embassies are functional: Pakistan, Qatar, UAE, and Uzbekistan is where the embassies of Afghanistan are functional. He said that they're in talks for other countries as well, and soon these issues will be resolved. So lots of takeaways from that press conference by the foreign minister, first ever by him after taking charge. Molly?
Indeed. Let me take that to Siddhant. Siddhant, while the Taliban has given out a very balanced response when it comes to that question, it is a change in tone, definitely. India has made its stance absolutely clear that Afghan soil should not be used for terror.
Well, yes, this is something that India has been talking about. In fact, today, in last 1 hour, 2 important developments, in fact, statements have come out. First, by the Indian Foreign Secretary, who has talked about the United Nations resolution passed on 30th of August under the chairmanship of India, which talks about that Afghanistan should not give any safe haven to terror groups, especially international terror groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. And we saw a similar sentiment being echoed by the Secretary West in the Ministry of External Affairs in Geneva at the Human Rights Council, talking about the concerns regarding Afghanistan, and also particularly mentioning about this resolution, the rights of women, the rights of minorities, but talking about the comments made by the Taliban foreign minister. And this is something that, of course, there is no reaction, but New Delhi will be carefully studying the reaction, but do not expect any reaction so far, because we know that what India has been calling on, along with the international community, is an inclusive government in Afghanistan, an inclusive government which includes women, which includes minorities such as Hazaras, and also commitments which Taliban has made. So this statement comes at a time when the situation is still developing. It is an evolving situation, and it will be difficult to call on exactly what happens, because as the international community has been saying, that we will not go by the words of Taliban, but we will go by the action on the ground of Taliban.
Right, so balancing act by the Taliban foreign minister there. Anas, you also asked the foreign minister about the sanctions. The minister has slammed the sanctions that have been imposed, according to them, unfairly, calling them cruel. Earlier in the day, we also was talking about the deepening humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan and the need for international help that the Taliban has stressed upon. The reason why they have been reiterating this is because they need the international assistance, and they want the sanctions to be removed so that the financial position of the Taliban regime is helped, the humanitarian crisis is mitigated.
There's a humanitarian crisis at hand, that is for sure. There are a lot of internally displaced persons, and then we saw a mass exodus as well in the run-up to Taliban's takeover. Even today we were at Sarai Shumali and we saw that at least 1,000 families from Kunduz, Takhar, Balkh, Badakhshan, they're still here in Kabul. Some of them, about 200 to 300, are in Shahrinor, the city center as well. So there is undoubtedly there is a humanitarian crisis that is there, not just limited to the cash inflow, but to staple food supplies as well. And we're seeing that is the reason countries like Qatar, Pakistan, UAE, Egypt, Bahrain, they are sending in relief items almost on daily basis. So that remains a bigger problem for this Taliban government. They've been reaching out. In fact, today at the press conference, Ameer Muttaqi, he said that his priority would be to get back those refugees who are living abroad, A, and B, the fact that those refugees who are there, the IDPs or internally displaced persons, his priority would be that they should go back to their own hometowns. But how can they go back? They don't have any money, they don't have any particular system in place. The financial system is a mess over here. People haven't been paid, at least in the government sector, for now 3 months now. So issues remain at hand, challenges remain at hand. There's all talk. We're yet to see actions being implemented on that. Today, a policy guideline has been given by their foreign minister. So in days to come, it would be closely watched out. Molly?
Right, leaving it there for the moment, Anas and Satan, thanks very much. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.